Mr. Medvedev reminded President Trump that Russia possessed nuclear strike capabilities. It's not clear exactly where Mr. Trump has ordered the submarines to be deployed. He is our North America correspondent, David Willis. The men have been taunting each other after the White House this week said Russia had 10 days to agree to a ceasefire in Ukraine or face tough sanctions.
And Donald Trump has posted online about moving two nuclear submarines to be nearer to Russia.
At 0637 hours, the radar on USS Samson locked onto a mystery vessel racing low across the Pacific waves. No flag, no call sign, and ignoring every hail. A single fast-moving contact, 380 nautical miles southwest of Acapulco, had just appeared out of nowhere, and within seconds, black specks were seen hitting the water as cargo was tossed overboard. What kind of vessel dumps cargo when spotted? And why would the U.S. Navy risk opening fire so far from shore? Stick with us, because what happened next turned into a $58 million problem for cartel smugglers. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So did you click the subscribe button? Great! Thank you so much. Now back to the video. A lone radar return flickered across the Samson's scope, cutting low over the swells like a shadow, silent and fast. Hundreds of vessels are logged each day, but this one ignored repeated hails, showed no transponder signature, and stayed off standard traffic routes. That silence made it stand apart. A lone hit like this, isolated so far at sea, rings every alarm bell on the bridge. It's not the size of the radar return that mattered, but the profile, the behavior, and the timing. Civilian boats follow predictable arcs. This one was moving erratically. The detection came in the gray hours, when visibility is poorest and crews are most alert for contacts sliding below horizon.
We know when there's Russians underway at all times. We track that very, very closely.
The men have been taunting each other after the White House this week said Russia had 10 days to agree to a ceasefire in Ukraine or face tough sanctions.
We were the first journalists to see the types of commercial ships the Houthis have targeted and the U.S. warships sent to protect them.
Samson picked it up more than 200 miles from support aircraft, which meant the ship and its onboard team had to decide what was lurking in the noise of the radar. At that distance from any port, contacts with high speed and low silhouette are not fishermen or cargo haulers. They're almost always smugglers, and the difference between confirming or missing that threat is measured in minutes. Smuggling crews rely on the sea's vast distances, but they also design boats to outwit sophisticated detection. Their vessels sit low to the waterline, paint often dull gray or blue, and little more than fiberglass shells strapped around oversized outboard engines. On radar, they almost disappear, giving off a signature so faint it can resemble ocean clutter. They rarely follow straight lines, banking and zigzagging across wave crests to confuse operators. And when a warship closes range, sacks of narcotics go straight into the water in hopes of leaving nothing behind for evidence. Within 90 seconds of contact being flagged, Samson's deck crew had already spun up her embarked helicopter. Time was everything. A go-fast boat doing 40 knots could open more distance in a minute than a destroyer can close in 5. The helicopter gave the eyes in the sky needed to track the suspect if it tried to vanish into the horizon. Pilots lifted off with Coast Guard maritime law enforcement personnel strapped in, prepared for the possibility of a boarding once the boat was definitively identified. From above, the helicopter camera caught packages flying over the gunwale, thudding into the sea in a frantic attempt to shed cargo. One bundle struck the side of the boat itself before splashing down, bursting against the hull with a hard flash. For the smugglers, this was disposal.
President Trump issuing new warnings to Russia and repositioning 2 U.S. nuclear submarines after what he calls highly provocative statements by Russia's former president.
Mr. Medvedev reminded President Trump that Russia possessed nuclear strike capabilities. It's not clear exactly where Mr. Trump has ordered the submarines to be deployed. He is our North America correspondent, David Willis.
How many sailors are now in the Red Sea?
Yeah, we've got about 7,000 right now.
For the crew watching through infrared cameras, it was confirmation. No innocent skiff discards massive bales into open water the moment a Navy aircraft turns overhead. The Coast Guard detachment on Samson had a specialized role. Called a law enforcement detachment, or LEDET, they board, arrest, and process suspects under federal authority. The Navy can stop a vessel, but the Coast Guard makes the arrest valid under American law. That team waited until the go-fast halted, but the vessel's crew seemed determined to run through warning calls. As the destroyer closed distance, pattern shots were fired across the bow to demand compliance. Still, the smugglers pressed the throttles, engines screaming. When warnings failed, disabling fire was authorized. Precision bursts targeted the exposed outboard engines. The sharp clatter of rounds shattered propeller assemblies, jolting the vessel to a dead stop. These shots were not about destruction, but control. Lethal power withheld in favor of immobilization.
A threat was made, and we didn't think it was appropriate, so I have to be very careful. So I do that on the basis of safety for our people.
President Trump says he's ordered the deployment of 2 U.S. nuclear submarines to the appropriate regions in response to threats from the former Russian president, Dmitry Medvedev.
Surveillance morphed into kinetic action within minutes, showcasing the destroyer's ability to flex from watchdog to frontline interdiction force without losing command of the situation. With the threat neutralized, Coast Guard personnel boarded and found exactly what the aircrew had seen hitting the waves. 47 tightly wrapped bales stacked on deck, weighing a combined 560 kilograms. Estimated value on the American street, $58 million. The smugglers were detained with no injuries. A billion-dollar warship had pivoted from missile defense to narcotics seizure with quiet precision, ending in the capture of both cargo and crew. The question lingered on the open sea. Was this strike an isolated victory?
Russia? I think it's disgusting what they're doing. I think it's disgusting.
And Donald Trump has posted online about moving 2 nuclear submarines to be nearer to Russia.
Yeah, the left turn back around.
Our report begins not on the water, but in the air.
4-1 copies.
Or a small slice in a wider contest stretching across the Eastern Pacific's traffic lanes. A ship designed to shield fleets from ballistic missiles shifted roles in seconds, firing controlled bursts not at incoming warheads, but at twin outboard motors strapped to a smuggler's hull. That is the reality of modern naval doctrine: multi-mission assets that can strike, defend, or enforce law depending on the threat. This operation also displayed the Navy Coast Guard model at its sharpest, muscle and authority working in tandem. If you commanded the Samson, would you have fired sooner or waited longer? Let me know in the comments and subscribe for more. The message sent that night carried far beyond the Pacific.